Welcome to Fix It Home Improvement, covering projects that every homeowner should know and great products for home and garden.
Hi, I'm JC, and this is where we share weekly home improvement tips. I'm here with my co-host Cindy.
Hello, JC.
Hi, Cindy. This week we're going to be talking about rabbits, and we'd like to thank JT Drumline for giving us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts. Rabbits have been around for about 40 million years, and paleontologists have found bones from prehistoric rabbits in Spain, and they're guessing the rabbits weighed about 26 pounds.
Wow, that's a big rabbit.
Romans raised rabbits around 200 BC for food and for fur, and you know my favorite rabbit?
Bugs Bunny?
No, the rabbit in Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
Ugh.
He had nasty, big, pointy teeth, and they had to kill him with the holy hand grenade. And you know where the idea of that rabbit came from? From a carving in the Cathedral of Notre Dame. It shows a knight running away from a rabbit. So they had a sense of humor in the 1100s. There's a variety of rabbit types and shapes, and you should take a look at the lion head rabbit.
Why?
Some of them just look angry. Then there's Angora rabbits. Some of them look like just a big round ball of fluff, or they remind me of Cousin It from the Addams Family. In the U.S., the cottontail rabbit is one of the most common species, and what's interesting is it digs a nest for its young above ground, and then it's going to line it with fur and plant material, where most other rabbits are actually digging these elaborate tunnels called a warren, and they can have multiple openings to the surface and have different areas for sleeping and storing food, but the cottontail rabbit is using the underground burrows of other animals. They're not digging their own burrows.
Lazy.
When a wild rabbit sees or hears something that scares it, it'll pound the ground with its back feet to warn other rabbits. So most rabbits are only living about 2 years in the wild, but pet rabbits can live 8 to 10 years if you keep them inside, because outside, anything that eats meat likes rabbit.
You ever had rabbit?
No, I don't think so.
Me neither.
They say it tastes like chicken. Rabbits are crepuscular.
What does that mean?
So they're active at dawn and dusk. And they can run up to 18 miles an hour in a zigzag pattern so that it's easier for them to get away from predators. And they have 2 types of droppings. So one type is small and hard, it's pea size, and the other is soft, sticky, dark pellets. And the rabbits eat it immediately after they deposit it. And that way they can pull out all the nutrients from the vegetation that they ate.
That's gross.
So it's kind of like a cow chewing its cud.
Yeah, still gross.
So rabbits eat grass, clover, lettuce, cabbage, carrots, beets, beans, peas, broccolis, most of the stuff you're growing in your garden. And they're also eating flowers or fruit. And in winter, they're going to eat anything woody, like twigs and bark. And rabbits are eating constantly and have 3 to 6 litters of young a year with 2 to 6 babies at a time.
Wow.
So if you have a garden or a landscape area and the rabbits find it, they can become a problem pretty fast. One of the first things to do to keep rabbits out of your garden or your landscape areas is to clean up any areas they're going to use to hide. So they prefer tall grass, piles of wood, bushes, or covered areas. They don't like to feel exposed. And it's also good to remove water bowls from your pets outside if you have gardens or landscape areas where you think rabbits are going to be a problem. Because once they find a source of water, they're going to continually come back to that. Around the border of your lawn or your garden, you can grow plants that rabbits don't like. So PETA says that rabbits don't like lavender, cat...
What's PETA?
People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals.
Oh, okay. I knew that.
So they're saying that rabbits don't like lavender, catnip, or marigolds. The Farmer's Almanac says rabbits don't like onion or garlic. And a couple of the garden forums I was reading say that rabbits don't seem to like asparagus, leeks, rhubarb, snapdragons, geraniums, goatweed, periwinkle, lilac, tomatoes, basil, mint, or oregano. And a couple of the gardeners were saying planting multiple types of these plants in double rows around the perimeter of your yard or your garden is fairly effective at stopping rabbits from going past it.
So like a border?
Like a barrier of smell. The University of Illinois says if you plan on using repellents for rabbits, to get products that use smell and taste in the formula. So they found that these can be effective in a wide border around the perimeter of your lawn or your garden. But read the label, because some of these shouldn't be sprayed on edible plants. The Minnesota State Horticulture Society recommends blood meal or powdered blood for a border around your garden and as your garden fertilizer. So the smell of blood triggers the flight response in rabbits.
What is blood meal?
It's dried animal blood, usually from slaughterhouses, and they use it for flowers and vegetables. It's adding nitrogen to the soil, but the odor is going to fade over time, so you're going to need to reapply it. Look at the application recommendations. You don't want to over-apply it because it's high in nitrogen, and it's going to repel rabbits, squirrels, and deer, but it attracts dogs, raccoons, and possums. So if you have a dog, they're attracted to the smell, and if a dog ingests blood meal, it can cause vomiting and diarrhea. And if you have a whole bag, let's say it's sitting outside, and the dog gets into it and eats a lot, it can actually be toxic.
Wow. They should really change the name. That's a terrible name.
Blood meal?
Yeah.
Should have like a skull and crossbones on it.
Yeah.
Repellents that use putrefied eggs work well with rabbits, but it's going to need to be reapplied over time or after a rain. Some top-rated repellents, Uncle Ian's, so it's IANS. Their mole, gopher, deer, rabbit, and squirrel repellent uses taste and smell to deter rabbits. It's OMRI certified.
What is it?
So that's the Organic Materials Review Institute. It comes in a powder, and you can spread this out on your lawn, or you can use it as a border control around your garden. And it's 13% nitrogen, so you can use it to feed your lawn while it's annoying rabbits. Critter Ritter has a hose end sprayer to cover your lawn, and it uses putrefied eggs, garlic, pepper, and plant oils to repel rabbits with smell and taste, and it also fertilizes the lawn. Liquid Fence, their deer and rabbit repellent, uses putrefied eggs and garlic to deter rabbits. They have liquid and granular formulas. Tomcat animal repellent granules use essential oils, and rabbits don't like the smell or the taste. This is safe around plants. You can reapply it every 30 days or after a rain. Bonide, it's BONIDE. They have two lines of repellents. So one is Repels All, and the other one is Go Away Deer and Rabbit Repellent. And they use putrefied eggs, pepper, and garlic in their granular formulas. And then in their spray formulas, they use hot peppers, and you can spray this around the grass or a border around your garden. Defense Rabbit Repellent, it's capital DE, capital FENCE, is a spray with high concentrations of putrefied egg. This is going to last up to 90 days. It's OMRI listed. Rabbit Mace comes in a spray or a granule. It's putrefied eggs, garlic, peppermint oil, and cinnamon oil.
So, can you make your own repellent?
So a good homemade recipe, and this is from the North Dakota State University. They're saying get red cayenne pepper, jalapeno, habanero peppers, grind it up in a food processor, put it in a quart of water with 2 tablespoons of olive oil, a couple of drops of liquid soap, and mix it really well. Let it set, and then strain out all the solids and put it into a spray bottle, and then spray it everywhere you don't want rabbits. Many gardeners are saying that the motion-activated sprinklers are good at scaring away rabbits and other animals. Orbit has one that can be used for scaring off animals, and it can be used for general watering. Critter Ritter has a motion-activated sprinkler with an infrared sensor, so this can be used for day or night. And it has a 5-second burst of water, then it shuts off, and they say that that adds to the startle response. And you can adjust the sensitivity and the range of the water spray.
Okay.
You can trap rabbits and release them away from your house. Pros are saying at least 5 miles. PETA's not recommending it, though, because most rabbits live their whole lives in a 10-acre area, and then they panic when they can't find their home. They stop eating and drinking. But if you do want to trap a rabbit, use apples, carrots, or lettuce as your bait. And Have a Heart has top-rated traps. It's HAVAHART. Just make sure you're getting one big enough. It's sized for rabbits.
Okay.
You know what PETA also says?
No.
Never let a pet rabbit out into the wild. It won't survive. So if you don't want your rabbit anymore and you have a pet rabbit that's lived inside a house, take it to a shelter so someone else can adopt it. Rabbits are now the 3rd most popular pet in the U.S. and the U.K. Rabbits are more popular than hamsters now, if you can believe it.
I can.
If you have a pet rabbit, the University of Huddersfield in the UK says not to put your rabbit in a trance. So this is called tonic immobility, and Charles Darwin wrote about it in 1839.
Are you going to explain what it is?
So if you take your rabbit and you put it on its back with its chin resting against its body, it has an automatic response where it can't move. People think it's a trance or the rabbit's in a very relaxed state, but studies are showing that it's a high state of stress. So this is a defense mechanism to go limp so a predator thinks it's dead. And
it's playing possum?
Yeah, and it's completely involuntary. Yeah, just like playing possum, completely involuntary. And scientists are saying this is not healthy for your rabbit to do this. PETA and many university studies say the best way to keep rabbits out of your garden or your landscape areas is a fence. The Department of Fish and Wildlife says for most rabbits, a fence made out of chicken wire or hardware cloth 18 inches to 24 inches high is going to work well. If you have jackrabbits in your area, you may have to go up to 36 inches. So chicken wire is twisted wire mesh with hex-shaped openings, and the wire can be galvanized or PVC coated. Hardware cloth is flexible wire mesh that's woven or welded. You're going to either have square or rectangular shapes, the mesh openings. Woven is going to be more flexible. Welded is stiffer. It's going to be less flexible. And your hardware cloth can be galvanized. It can be double galvanized for more corrosion resistance, or you can have galvanized with a PVC coating. You can get plastic mesh fencing, and that's going to be very flexible. And the mesh on all this fencing should be 1 inch or smaller. For most rabbits, you want to have an 18-inch high fence, which will allow you to step over it easily, and then you want it about 6 inches underground to keep them from digging underneath it.
So what do you mean, just the post or like the whole fencing?
So the whole fencing, so you're going to have at least 18 inches high and 6 inches underground because they love to dig, most of them.
Right.
Except cottontails are kind of lazy. Or instead of going 6 inches underground with your fencing, you can also create a barrier right on top of the soil up to the fencing with either a 6-inch or a 12-inch wide hardware cloth flat on the ground. And now, they can't dig down into the soil right next to the fence.
So like on the outside of the fence?
Correct.
Okay.
You also want your fencing about 2 feet away from any vegetation, and that doesn't make it as attractive to want to get into the garden. And it also makes it easier for you to work on your garden. You can use the metal T-stakes or posts with the hooks on the edge, and that's going to hold the mesh. With the metal T-stakes, you can space those about 8 feet apart. Wood posts, you can put 4 to 6 feet apart, and on wood, you can use fence staples, and you just use a hammer and pound that into the wood. The green colored metal posts and the green coated fencing blends in nice with your garden or your lawn. Hardware cloth and chicken wire is going to come in different gauges or wire size, and this started in the 1700s. So originally what they were doing was they were taking a metal wire and pulling it through a die to increase its length and shrink its size. So 1 gauge wire was pulled once through a die and made it smaller. 2 gauge, that same wire was pulled a second time through an even smaller die, so now it's smaller and longer. 3 gauge wire was pulled a third time through an even smaller die, and then just...
Okay, we get it.
So with wire, the smaller the number, the bigger the wire, because it went through less dies, and it's bigger. For hardware cloth, around 23 gauge is pretty common. You can create a cylinder of hardware cloth around trees that rabbits are gnawing on and keep it about a foot or so away from the tree. For raised garden beds, you can get kits that hold netting over the garden, and you remove that when you work on it. Or there's pop-up nets. They're kind of like fencing tents for your raised beds, too.
Do you have anything else to add?
To keep rabbits out of your garden or landscape areas, you're going to get the best results if you're using a variety of repellents that use odor, taste, and the startle response. You can also create a patch of clover away from the area that you're trying to protect, and it's going to keep them coming back to that area. They get used to that as their source of food, and if you're putting repellents on the other area, they're going to want to stay away from that area.
Okay.
And then if all else fails, just put up a fence.
Let's wrap this up.
You can subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, the Spotify mobile app, the Google Play Music app, iHeartRadio, CastBox, and Player FM.
If you enjoyed it, please leave us a review.
You can check out our home improvement videos on our YouTube channel, Fix It Home Improvement.
And you can subscribe to that as well.
You can download our books, Home Improvement Solutions, What Every Homeowner Should Know, on Amazon. We're getting close on book 5.
Yes, we are. We are working really hard on it.
Cindy's rocking book 5. Almost ready to go to the editor. This is going to be a good one.
I hope
I'm
so.
excited.
Oh, that's good. If you enjoyed our books, please leave us a 5-star rating and review.
You can follow Cindy on Twitter at FixItCohost. You can email us at fixitpodcast@gmail.com.
Thank you for listening.
Talk to you next week.